The USA would like to scrutinize its relationship with South Africa. They want to scrutinize, they want to look into their ties, reevaluate the tie with South Africa. US lawmakers have come together. They say it is necessary for them to scrutinize the relationship. Why would such thing happen? Usually, when somebody wants to scrutinize a relationship, it's usually triggered by something, right? It's never for nothing. Never for nothing you want to scrutinize your relationship with somebody. I need to reevaluate our relationship. It's usually because something happened, something you perhaps didn't like, right? So as say US relations will be scrutinized as US lawmakers sit to review ties, cite ICG case. The US State Department terms its relationship with South Africa as strong. So they have a very strong relationship. However, US congressmen John James and Jared Moskowitz would like the ties to come under review. They want the relationship to be reviewed. These are American congressmen. They would like America to review its tie with South Africa. Why? But first, they introduced a bill in the US House of Representatives on February 6 that seek to undergo a review of bilateral ties between the United States and South Africa. We know that a lot of things have happened lately between SA and USA. Not necessarily directly. You can have friendship by indirect relations. You can also have enemy or problems indirectly. Okay, so a lot of things have happened between the US and South Africa. John James, a US representative, accuses Pretoria of building ties to countries and actors that undermine the United States national security and threatens the US way of life. What? Threaten the US way of life? Who threatened the US way of life? How do you do that? I mean, you go to America to threaten US way of life? I mean, that's heavy to say. Threaten the USA way of life. Threaten the US way of life, they say. They do it through its military, political cooperation with China and Russia, and its support of the US designated terror group named Hamas. So basically, the United States of America is saying, we need to review our tie, at least representatives say, we need to review our relationship with South Africa because they're threatening our way of life. Okay, let's just stop on that. Threatening people's way of life. They can only threaten your way of life if somebody comes to your house, right? They come into your house and force you not to drink wine. Let's say you drink wine after dinner and say, don't drink wine. That's threatening your way of life. They can only threaten your way of life and say, don't get into the shower when you want to get. That's threatening your way of life. My question is, how do somebody threaten your way of life if they don't dare come to your house? Unless you are at their house and you're trying to bring your way of life in their house and they say, nope, no drinking wine here. Nope. No showering at 5 o'clock here. Then let me do things the way I like them, even if it is in your house. That's perhaps the only way I believe you could say somebody's threatening your way of life, right? So they say they're not very happy because South Africa has developed a relationship with China and Russia, the two countries that are very big economically, militarily, and in many other ways. So to me, it sounds very much like somebody who's strong in a class, okay? And he doesn't like you very much. He said, don't come near me. I need to review our relationship because you were talking to the other two guys that are as strong. Some two other guys that are challenging me in the class. Don't come near me, right? I mean, why would you, if you don't have an issue directly with the person, why would you say, I need to review our relationship because you've been talking to John and James and I don't like John and James. They're threatening my way of life. They say South Africa supports a US designated terrorist group in Hamas. Could this perhaps mean the USA is not very happy because South Africa provided some help to Palestinians living in Gaza? We all know South Africa went to the International Court of Justice asking for respect for Palestinian people. South Africa has a very good tie with Palestine since many, many years ago because for many years they lived very similar life. South Africa was under apartheid and Palestinians were fighting for their freedom in some ways. And Nelson Mandela had a very good relationship with Yasser Arafat, who was a leader of Palestine for a long time. Because Mandela said South Africa cannot be fully free if Palestine is still under the shackle of difficulties. So that's perhaps the reason why South Africans say, you know what, we've lived this before. We know what apartheid feels like. We know what it feels like being scrutinized for walking 100 meters in our own country, or whatever. We are going to the International Court of Justice to speak out because nobody else is doing it. This is unacceptable, as per South Africa. And obviously, because America is the friend of Israel, are they going to be happy with that? Let me just remind you here, fellas, because specifically, US politicians say South Africa was absolutely insane for trying to take Israel to court. And this was politically motivated, wasn't rational at all. So asking Israel to leave an open door to food and medication and stuff for people in Gaza who were innocent was absurd, as per some American politicians. And to the surprise of everybody, after South Africa went to court, they actually won, or partially won. People were surprised to see that fact. Now, Naledi Pandor of South Africa, very strong woman, very respectable person, said that South Africa offers quality product to US market and wish the relationship to grow. Obviously, I need to put it this way for you. South Africa exports a lot of goods to America and many other places. So because there has been a vibe between South Africa and America, Naledi Pandor says she wishes this is going to continue, fearing the fact that the misunderstanding could be a threat to export that South Africa does to the United States. Naledi Pandor says we have different views on many foreign policy matters, but as democracy, we affirm the sovereign right of state to frame their foreign policy. So every state should be able to form its own foreign policy and not be dictated by anybody to do so. I am concerned at the bill drifters' attempt to associate our country with terrorism and atrocious attack against civilians in Israel. And she's trying to say that those politicians in America saying that South Africa was supporting terrorist group, they shouldn't be saying that because South Africa never supported Hamas when they went to Israel to do wrong things. The spokesman of South Africa President Vincent Magwenya, spokesman for President Cyril Ramaphosa, told Bloomberg that a lot of issues raised by the members of Congress in the US are issues that have been either dealt with or clarified in public communication. So there are many things happening. South Africa is very good friend with Russia. And as you know, not many people like Russia right now. There was stories along the line. US ambassador in South Africa said that South Africa was providing weapons and ammunition to Russia. It was a massive accusation. He said he's 100% sure. He could swear with his life that South Africa is sending weapons and ammunition to Russia.
We are confident that weapons were loaded onto that vessel, and I would bet my life on the accuracy of that assertion.
South Africa obviously launched an investigation, an internal investigation, and proved that there was no weapons or ammunition being sent to Russia from South Africa. So in other words, whatever these congressmen are saying, it's bullcrap because it has been clarified in the past. So saying that they're doing things that undermine our security and our way of life, it's a bit of a reach because we've clarified that. There's nothing that's been done in the way that you portrayed them. We also know that politicians in the United States have been trying to put pressure on South Africa for it to separate from Russia. Along many African countries, South Africa benefits from a program named AGOA. AGOA, which stands for African Growth and Opportunity. And AGOA was a program created by America in order to allow many African countries to export their goods to the US with a very low tax, preferential tax rate, sometimes for free. And doing this will enable these African countries from having a much larger market where they could dispense their product. And that was great because many African countries profit from AGOA. They will export some stuff. They will, it really works. South Africa is one of the biggest exporters to the United States through AGOA. They export cars, BMWs, Mercedes. They export agricultural products and many other things. And it's a massive market for SA. And for quite some time, the US has been putting pressure on South Africa. Some lawmakers have been threatening South Africa, saying that they're going to remove them of AGOA. And there was even a moment where they said last June, they put pressure on Joe Biden administration in a letter to punish South Africa by relocating the 20th African Growth Opportunities. So the 20th episode of AGOA that was set in Johannesburg, November 2023, to another country. So they say, okay, because South Africa is supporting Russia and because they seem to not be moving on our side, they're very friendly with China, let's move AGOA to another country in a way to punish them. So my question is this, okay? I mean, what type of world this is? Are people allowed to make their own choices? Are people allowed to make their own choices? Or people are obliged to do things that certain people want? If you don't do that, then you are the enemy. And if you have not done anything that's criminal, they will review the relationship. Is this a lesson for us to understand that the friend of your enemy is also your enemy? I mean, at least if you decide to speak to somebody that doesn't speak to some other person, that other person doesn't like you anymore and want to review the relationship. Is this a fair world where we can say that everybody is really trying to be democratic? Isn't democracy also respecting other people's choices? I'm very interested to know. Does democracy only apply when we say we are Democrats? Or does the democracy apply also into respecting other people's culture, other people's choices, other people's direction? And Lady Pandor was very strong when Anthony Blinken came to Africa, saying subtly, asking South Africans subtly to choose a side within the role between Russia and the rest of the world. Put pressure on South Africa in many ways without really saying it. Pandor was very strong as he said, we are not willing to give in to nobody's pressure. We are a free country and we need to respect each other. She's a very strong woman indeed. Now, can we say, fellas, today that the reason why they're trying to review the relationship between USA and South Africa is purely because South Africa is standing tall on its own, making its own choice, not being moved in a direction that they don't want to move into? And another question is, does saying that other countries are threatening the USA way of life necessarily means that other countries are bad countries and you shouldn't be talking to them? If that's the case, then would that mean that America is always right and people should always side with America? Is that democracy? I don't know. Let me know how you feel about this. It's always a great pleasure. How do you think South Africa has done with everything that has passed in the past couple of months? From not budging when they got pressure to not support Russia to very strongly going to accuse Israel at the International Court of Justice. God bless.